It is a brand new year and we are motivated. Motivated to get out of the style rut that we've been in, to be more efficient with our wardrobe, to stop wasting our resources on things we'll never wear more than once, and to make getting dressed every morning an easy and joyful experience. All the while looking stylish and fashionable. And how do we do that? By finding our personal style. And there's so much content out there about this topic that you might even be sick and tired of hearing people talk about it. But nonetheless, you probably clicked on this video because you still don't have a clear answer to the question, how do you find your personal style? Well, today I'm gonna share with you my own experience and style journey and how I would streamline the whole process if I had to do it all over again by asking and answering some brutally honest questions about yourself and your wardrobe. I have spent years experimenting with a wide variety of styles in the past. Ever since I got my first part-time job at the age of 15, all of my money has been spent on clothing. And this habit continued well into my mid-20s. I was still living at home with my parents, so all of the money I made through my full-time job at this point was being spent on clothes. And of course, a lot of us have gone through that experimental stage with fashion at some point in our lives, but my obsession was at another level than most people. And it's so unfortunate that I didn't take more photos of myself to show you just how crazy experimental I was with my own style throughout the years, but I suffered from major body image issues throughout my teenage and young adult years. And I was actually using my shopping addiction as a coping mechanism, so I really don't have many photos of myself from when I was younger. But all these issues that I've had in the past allowed me to experiment with so many different styles over the years that I feel really confident today about knowing what works and what doesn't for myself and how my style reflects who I am today. And if I had to do it again, I would not take such a wasteful path for obvious reasons, which is why I want to talk about streamlining the entire process. And in streamlining this process of finding your personal style, we have to ask some really honest questions to ourselves. And for me, answering these questions have provided me with a bit of a reality check and a lot of clarity around what I was doing wrong. But before we get into the meat of the video, since we're on the topic of mental health, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. BetterHelp, as many of you already know, is a mental health platform that provides easy access to counseling and therapy services through online interactions like video chats, phone calls, or even via messaging. Starting therapy is not easy. You have to find the right therapist in your area, and some people might find face-to-face interaction somewhat uncomfortable, etc. For me, one of my criteria was also to find someone who understood my cultural background. So despite all the mental health issues that I was dealing with, it took me a really long time to find the right therapist that I truly felt comfortable with. But BetterHelp matches you to one of over 30,000 licensed therapists in their network, giving you access to a much wider range of expertise or even cultural background than what might be currently available in your area. If you think you could benefit from therapy, which I personally think that everyone can in some way or form, click on the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/stylemejen to receive 10% off your first month of subscription. To get started, all you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you'll get matched with your therapist in most cases within 48 hours or less. And if the therapist you're first matched with isn't the right fit for you, which coming from experience can absolutely happen when you're just starting therapy, with BetterHelp you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. We all know that taking care of your health up here is just as important as your physical well-being, so if you're interested, visit betterhelp.com/stylemejen, link in the description for your 10% discount. All right. Back to the topic, how can we streamline the process of finding our personal style without wasting our resources on trials and errors? And what are the questions that we should be asking ourselves? I've broken down the process into 3 stages for you, and in each stage you're going to address a set of specific questions about yourself and about your closet. So the first stage is assessing your current closet. Now, before you say that this sounds like a very obvious tip, check out the specific questions that I'd like for you to address. The first question is, which items would you pick out as the pieces you really love? In my previous video on decluttering your closet, I talked about coming up with 7 different outfits for the current season that you absolutely love. Now, for some of you, coming up with complete looks might be difficult, especially if you're not sure about your personal style yet. So start with specific pieces that you love. And once you've decided which items are your favorite, ask yourself why. Is it how it fits? Is it the color? Is it the fabric or the pattern? Or does it have some sentimental value to you? It's easy for us to say, this is my favorite top or this is my favorite jacket. But once you start actually thinking about why exactly you like those items so much and try to articulate those reasons in more detail, it becomes a little easier for you to understand your own preferences and also what kind of patterns you've developed with your current shopping choices. Now, the next question to ask yourself is, how often do you actually wear your favorite pieces? Even if you feel like you have a closet full of nothing to wear, we all have those outfit combinations that we tend to default to the most, right? Now, do those outfit combinations that you default to include your favorite pieces? If the answer is no for any of your favorite items, then again, ask yourself why. Is the item too unrealistic to incorporate into your daily outfits? Is it because you love how the item looks on the hanger, but it's actually very uncomfortable when you wear it? Is it a beautiful color that you absolutely love, but when you put it on, something just doesn't feel right? Try to be brutally honest with yourself about why you're holding on to these items that you claim to love but rarely reach for. Because chances are, if you're not wearing these items regularly today, you're not gonna wear them regularly ever. So this first step of assessing whether there is a difference between what you think you like to wear versus what you actually like to wear, it gives you a bit of a reality check. For me, like I said, my shopping habits were clearly an addiction and a coping mechanism for the mental state that I was in. And I ended up continuously purchasing items that I thought was gonna make me feel better about myself and my body. And of course, all these purchases reflected the styles that I was drawn to or wanted to try, so there was some benefit in understanding and refining my own taste. But looking back, there was such a clear difference between what I imagined I could see myself in versus what I actually pulled out of the closet every day. So go through a really honest assessment of your current closet and ask yourself, am I being delusional? Because I was for many, many years, but when I started honestly evaluating what I liked looking at versus what I chose to wear more frequently, it became pretty clear to me that what I thought my personal style was versus the style that I was actually reflecting through what I wore most frequently, they were pretty different. Now, if you are already incorporating your absolute favorite and loved pieces from your closet into your daily outfits, that's wonderful for you. You're already a step ahead of the game. Now, the second stage of the process is to connect your current choices to the theories of the different style-related tools. This could be knowledge you've obtained about color analysis, Kibbe or Kitchener essences, rule of thirds, which somebody asked me to make a separate video about, and I plan on doing that in a few weeks' time. Or even if we're not talking about wardrobe specifically, think about your go-to hairstyle and try to connect it to the theories of facial proportions that I talk about a lot on this channel. So the questions you're asking yourself for this stage would be questions like, what are the colors that you gravitate towards the most? What kinds of silhouettes do you like? If you like to wear your hair up all the time, then why do you think that is? The reason why I think this step is important is because I strongly believe that we inherently know what kinds of styles actually work and don't work for us. We do. You don't know how many times I've received comments from my clients as well as on this channel saying, I've already been doing what you recommended, but I just didn't know why or how to explain it. If you're watching this video and if you regularly watch my content, then you already have an interest in this topic and you're paying some level of attention to your appearance and your style. And chances are, visually, you already know what works for yourself and you're already following those rules without even realizing that you are. Because we're all trying to achieve a style that reflects the best version of ourselves, so we've been all experimenting in some way or form throughout our lives. It's just that we want an added level of assurance and external validation that tells us this is what you should be wearing or this is how you should style your hair based on X, Y, and Z. But like I said, you already know a lot more than you think. You just don't know how to, or maybe don't care to, articulate why. So at this stage, what I'm suggesting is for you to look at your current choices and connect the dots to the different theories of body types or color seasons, proportions, etc. Too often we focus on figuring out or labeling what our body type is, what our seasonal color palette is and all that, because we feel like once we figure these things out, our choices will improve drastically and we're no longer going to have insecurities about our style choices anymore. But chances are you're probably already following at least some of the best practices and incorporating them into your style already. It's just that if you know for sure, it gives you the added security or confidence and it makes you feel like you're making choices with more intention. but I'm telling you, you're already way ahead of the game than you think. So rather than trying to learn how to use these tools first, look at the choices you've made already and see how you are using these tools already without knowing. If we use color analysis as an example, what colors are your current outfit choices made up of primarily? What kinds of patterns are we seeing in your color choices? Are you subconsciously avoiding certain colors? If you're thinking,
I just resort to black because it's easy.
Well, have you thought about the possibility of your color season being any of the 3 or 4 winter seasons? Because if you were, let's say, a light spring or a soft autumn, you might already be avoiding a very harsh color like black without even realizing that. So in assessing your closet and the outfits or pieces you gravitate towards the most, think about the tools that you've been interested in and see how your current choices reflect those theories. Now, if you don't really have a lot of knowledge about these different tools that I'm talking about, starting with the brands that you can find in your closet is also a great option. I'm sure a lot of you can agree that we tend to steer away from certain brands or specific items from certain brands because they just don't fit well. For example, I shop a lot at Oakenford, and this is not me promoting the brand because I actually think a lot of their stuff uses cheap materials and are overpriced. But the reason why I keep coming back to this brand is because their clothes fit me so well. I could go to other brands that carry higher quality items, but what good is that if I can't find pieces that fit my body well? So take a look at the brands of clothing you own the most as well and see if you can detect some sort of a pattern. It might tell you a little more about certain fits or styles that makes you feel the most comfortable. And then the third stage of this process is to assess your current environment and situation. What I mean by environment is the climate that you're in and your activity level from day to day. Are the items in your closet weather appropriate for where you live and for your daily activities? For example, I used to own a lot of heels. I loved wearing heels. And when I lived in Toronto, wearing heels every day kind of worked because I was driving into my office every day and I lived with my parents in a house. So my car was parked right in front of the house. So even in winter when there was a lot of snow, I could still get away with wearing heels 5 days a week because I would just wear my comfortable driving shoes to work, park in an underground lot, change my shoes, and then go into my office. So I would never really have the need to walk outside in my heels, but things changed when I moved to Vancouver. I no longer had a car. My first job when I moved to Vancouver required a lot of standing, and I would try to walk everywhere to get familiar with the city, etc. So wearing heels every day was just not realistic anymore. And even today, now I work from home, and I'm sure that a lot of you do as well in our current post-pandemic era. So things like our environment and our activity levels change over time, and you should really ask yourself, are you hanging on to items that no longer fit your current lifestyle? And speaking of the pandemic, I do also think that for a lot of us, staying at home in our sweats and wearing the same comfortable clothing over and over again has become the new norm. And some of us might feel a little bit at a loss when it comes to style and fashion these days, but it's 2024 and I do think that a lot of us feel the need to move on from the old habits of staying at home all the time. So another question that you should honestly answer is, are you just resorting to your old habits and using it as an excuse to avoid feeling lost? Now, with assessing your current situation, some questions you might want to ask yourself are related to your health and your finances. First, with health, going back to my high heels example, since a couple years ago, I really can't bear wearing heels anymore regardless of the weather conditions because it started becoming too painful to wear heels. And I'm suspecting that I've developed Morton's neuroma, which is a condition where the tissues around one of the nerves that leads to your toes become thicker and causes pain. So I just simply cannot wear heels that are higher than 2 inches anymore. And as a former high heel lover, I was kind of sad and disappointed about this whole thing. But I think I also just kind of realized that I kind of brought it upon myself by wearing all these crazy stilettos throughout the years, and I've pretty much overworked my feet. So it's something that I came to terms with, but it's a good example of assessing your current health and making sure that your outfit choices reflect it. Another example is weight loss or weight gain, which could be a way that indicates some level of change in your health as well, although not always. I usually don't like it when people say, don't keep anything that doesn't fit you right now. Not because I don't believe in self-acceptance at whatever weight you're at currently, but because I think it could be a double-edged sword in overlooking the changes in our bodies that might be more deeply related to health concerns than how it appears. And these changes might be related to your physical health, but also to your mental well-being, as we talked about earlier. There might be behavioral changes that are caused by the state of your mental health that could also lead to changes in your body, like weight loss or weight gain. And rather than just brushing it off and throwing away items that no longer fit, paying closer attention to the changes in your body, not from the perspective of body image, but from a health perspective, is really important. If certain things don't fit anymore, again, you have to be honest with yourself and ask why. Don't beat yourself down because of it, but understand what is going on with your body and why it's changing. And then with your current financial situation, with the earlier steps of assessing your closet, you might feel like your wardrobe and personal style will improve if you add certain accessories to make your outfits more interesting, or if you could buy more of certain styles that you're really drawn to, then it'll improve your style, etc. So you might be identifying what's missing in your closet currently that will complete your looks. But in doing so, you have to keep your financial situation and budget in mind. I personally don't have a lot of fashion influencers that I follow, even though I'm very interested in fashion. And that's because even if certain looks they wear inspire me, when you get into the details of what they're actually wearing, a lot of these items are simply outside of my budget. If I had more money, maybe I will buy these things, but the reality is that I don't have that luxury. It creates this illusion that if I buy this item that the stylish person is wearing, then it'll also elevate my style. But really, there are no quick and easy fixes in acquiring a taste in fashion and personal style. So you have to be realistic and ask, what can I actually afford right now from my wish list? And if you can't afford everything, then how are you going to prioritize? So really have a good assessment of your financial situation as well. And if you can't afford everything right now, you should deprioritize certain items that are maybe out of season, or find cheaper alternatives if you have a strong urge to purchase an item in a specific style. But going into debt because of fashion and style is unfulfilling, to say the least. I've been there. So as I mentioned at the beginning, throughout this whole video, I've really been trying to encourage you to ask yourself some real honest questions. And I hope that in coming up with brutally honest answers to these questions, it gives you some clarity around how to find your personal style in a more realistic and achievable way. I'll see you in my next video, and until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.